Kay has a project where she went, her father, who preceded her, chronologically, went into the mountains to remote towns and collected information and formed relationships with people in very secluded places. Some did not even have roads. You had to know trails to get there. Part of that collected some original folk songs. And Kay herself is a friend of mine, close friend, I can say.
Almost neighbors.
Almost neighbors. And she is an excellent, wonderful, wonderful psychologist, humanistic psychologist. She has dedicated a great deal of her life to understanding dog behavior and working with people with their animals. She is an accomplished athlete. She's been a wonderful tennis player. She's been around. What can I say? She's been around. Thanks. Don't have anything else.
No, you've done enough.
And this is going to be a very unique presentation, and so I'm just going to turn things over to her. And y'all.
Thank you, Lisa. She got us into this, by the way.
Yeah.
We presented at UNCA and had such a good time, too. So how did this all start? This all started when my father was a freshman at Brevard College, and he met a mountaineer concert pianist named Al Moore and his brother Donald Lee Moore. And my father they started hiking in the back countries of Appalachian, way in the hollers, because Al knew that area like the back of his hand. And my father was a budding sociologist, and so he continued all of this hiking with Al. And his idea is he wanted to find what he called monads, people living by themselves, or rugged individualists who are living way, way back in the hollers where there were no real roads, that some of these people hadn't seen another human being in 30 to 40 years. Now, you don't just go up and knock on the door of a hermit and say, hey, here I am to talk to you. You're likely to get shot. And so they had to hang out in places in Rossman and Brevard, and Al knew a lot of the area and a lot of the people. So they had to talk to people who knew people who might have a cousin, who might have a sister that knew somebody who had been lost or was back in the hollers. And there were little code words and things they had to do, bird calls they had to make. If they could get a Jeep up there, they had to honk on the horn and wait for an hour. There are all sorts of things they had to do. And my father made friends with 20 of these people over a period of about 30 years, and he would visit them almost every year. He'd hike back there. And there was even one woman hermit who you're going to hear about named Hester Sue, or I should say rugged individualist. Donald and Al collected old song ballads, and they also went to something called Community Mountain Sings, which is a lot like a precursor to this. People from all around North Carolina, up as high as Cashiers, would come and they would share their music with each other. And so I thought that that was a wonderful kind of concept that this really is about. You're coming together to share your interest and your music, your passion for music. So I thought when I got Dad moved to assisted living, I found all of his handwritten stories about all these hermits. And it had been in an article in Harper's Magazine. I had grown up with the stories, but I found the actual stories. And my father and I, when he was age 98, which was 2 years ago, wrote a book called The Last of the Rugged Individualist, about all of these people that he met. But along with the book, along with the stories, I found an old record album called Mountain Man Ballads by Al Moore. And it had a whole lot of ballads that just haven't even been heard of or played since, like Sorghums and Leather Breeches Beans and Moonshine Blues and things like that. And there was pretty good music, and so I got that made into a CD, and you're going to hear some of the original mountain music with Al singing it to the best of his recollection, is what he says. And then several of the songs, Letters to Abigail, have updated, and they're going to play, and then several of the songs we're going to teach Ewans how to sing. So we're going to have some singing here today, okay? I'll probably, if there's some time, I'm going to tell you two stories, or read you two stories. One about Hester Sue, who is a early feminist, lived on her own, and she's quite delightful. And the other story is called Outwitting the Revenuers, where my dad went on the moonshine run. Now, has anybody here heard of Adelaide Van Way? She's from the Brevard area, old folk singer. But I like the first paragraph she writes about folk music. Folk music is not a static form of expression. Folk music grows. Any event that touches the people, any disaster or unusual happening eventually winds up being sung about. A train wreck has occasioned one of our best loved folk songs, the coming of the TVA, the death of a local character, all furnish the inspiration for local poets and guitar players. Many people, and this is written in the 40s, many people have the mistaken notion the development of America's folk music stopped many years ago. This misconception soon becomes apparent if one listens to the sangs taking place all over the country. The South is particularly rich in producing folk music. It is our pleasure to collect these tunes in Smoky Mountain Ballads, which have not been heard outside of our Smokies. So I read this and I thought, Smoky Mountain Ballads? Never heard of that. Well, I had to do a ton of research. And I heard there was a little pamphlet called Smoky Mountain Ballads. And lo and behold, one of the 2 places in the country that had it was the Transylvania Public Library. So I took myself to the library and I found the sheet music for Smoky Mountain Ballads, and it had some of the music for some of the songs I only had words to. So you're going to be the recipient of a lot of this information and a lot of these songs. So what I wanted to start off with was just playing for you one of Al Moore's songs. Get my computer. There we go.
One sunny evening, some year ago, I clomb up to Uncle Looney Galloway's cabin on top of Seawall and asked Uncle Looney to make a little music for me. He said it would pleasure him to do so. So he drawed his bow and fiddle and sung Catgut. I'm afraid that I disremember all this here song ballad, but I recollect parts of it.
Just to let you know, this is a song about a fiddler. And he has to play at a dance. And one of his fiddle strings got busted. And what's he going to do? And he eyes the cat in the window.
Come all ye Highlands dancers and listen to this tale. It's a story of a fiddler and his name was Ezra Dale. Oh, wing, 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 wing,
Welcome to
wing,
come in,
sure
of
could
course,
fiddle and
anytime.
sing. Now Ezra was a fiddling one fine summer day, a practicing for a square dance way up Secoy way. Oh, wing, 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 he sure could fiddle and sing. He played and played and played and played, he made the fiddle a ring. He whooped it out so hard and fast that he busted a fiddle string. Wing, 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 he sure could fiddle and sing. As he cussed and as he cried and as he tore his hair, he knew there wasn't another fiddle string within 100 miles of there. Wing, 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 he sure could fiddle and sing. Then he seen his old gray cat sitting in the sun. Look at your fiddle string, you better up and run. Wing, 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 he sure could fiddle and sing. Then he went and skinned that cat and hung her out to dry. He always loved that animal, he couldn't help but cry. Oh, wing, 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 sure could fiddle and sing. That night up in Secoy, when the dance began, Ezra fiddled on all 4 strings and he made some music grand. Oh, wing, 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 he sure could fiddle and sing.
So, you can make a song
One sunny
about
evening,
just about,
some year ago,
you can make a song about just about anything when you're in the mountains. And so I remember when a little girl, Al, singing that, and I was very upset because of the cat. And I asked if he could make fiddle strings out of dogs, and he said no. So I was relieved. So the next one we're going to do is all day singing. And as I told you, there used to be mountain community sings. So I'm going to play you a little bit of all day singing. Then Letters to Abigail is going to play it, and then y'all are going to learn it. So if you take, it should be, those of you who have the songbooks, all day singing should be in the songbooks.
All right, is everyone okay with us recording any of these?
All right, me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I won't put them anywhere, just
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Thank you.
So all they sing should be in your songbooks.
Well, she can put that word.
Here's this verse first.
I sure do admire to go to all-day singings. Every 5th Sunday, singing choirs in Toxaway, Saliki, East Fork, Highlands, and from as far away as Nantahala and Broadtown meet for a singing convention. You'll never hear no sweeter music than when
Sing this
famous
first
professors take the stick to lead the combined singing choir. all day singing, dinner on the ground. Old folks and young uns gather round. Every kind of fiddle you ever did see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me. Come from islands and tucks away. Come in the morning, stay all day. Bring along your fiddle and guitar too. Come along, Mary, oh, come along, do.
So now we're going to have a little bit of an updated version, and then you're going to have a chance.
Yeah. Just don't.
There you go. Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
All day singing, dinner on the ground. Old folks and youngins gather around. Every kind of fiddle you ever did see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me. Come from the highlands and talks away. Come in the morning and stay all day. Bring along your fiddle and your guitar too. Come along, Mary, oh come along, do. Bring your fried chicken and your chocolate cake. All your best food you can make. All of your neighbors you'll get to see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me. All day singing, dinner on the ground. Old folks and youngins gather around. Every kind of fiddle you ever did see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me.
And for those of you who read sheet music, we just used it as a guide. I was telling him I was a percussionist growing up, so I really don't read. I read it like a first grader would probably read a Harry Potter book. So.
So teach them people some.
Alright.
All right, let's all do that. I think we all have sheet music.
Everybody's got a copy, right?
Yeah.
I'm expecting a lot from you guys.
All right. We'll play through the progression once and then we'll sing. Okay. 2.
Come play for blessings.
Here we go.
All day singing, dinner on the ground. Old folks and youngins gather round. Every kind of fiddle you ever did see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me. Come from the highlands and talks away. Come in the morning, stay all day. Bring along your fiddle and your guitar too. Come along, Mary, oh come along, do. Bring your fried chicken and your chocolate cake. Bring less food you can make. All of your neighbors you'll get to see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me. Come on, y'all. All day singing, dinner on the ground. Old folks and youngins gather around. Every kind of fiddle
again, y'all.
All that singing, dinner on the ground.
Yeah, y'all sing loud.
Old folks, young and gather around. Every kind of fiddle you ever did see. Come along, Mary, and sit by me.
Y'all do all right for a bunch of singers and songwriters.
Now, this song, particular song, did see the light of day. There was a group, I can't remember if it was the Spinners or somebody else that recorded it, and there have been a couple of versions out here of this particular song. So the words might not be exactly the same, but the tune's pretty similar. Okay, so the next one we're going to do, one of my favorites. Who knows what leather breeches beans are? Oh, come on. One person, two people?
Oh,
Three
man.
people. Oh, okay. I did this with a group of psychologists, and at least half of them knew what leather breeches beans are. So leather breeches beans are kind of bean that grow, that the mountaineers would grow, but you cannot eat them if you just cook them once because they taste really terrible. As Al would say, you got to boil them up twice, or even the hog beasties don't want to eat them. And they would oftentimes put them up, they'd soak them, and then they'd weave them up to dry in different parts of the cabin or outside, yep. And then they'd boil them again. And sometimes they'd boil them 3 times, and then there'd be kind of, not quite like a pot liquor, but there'd be some good juice with it. And it suppose he said, served mighty fine with some ham or something like that. But I'm going to let you hear Al sing it, and then we're going to have an updated version, and y'all are going to sing it. It's one of my favorites. Here we go.
Now I ain't mincy about eating, but withouten you buy lather breeches beans down twiced to get the toughness out, even the hog beasties won't eat 'em. Cook 'em up with a whopping hock of ham meat, and they are mighty good victuals.
Lather breeches, beans, and sow belly, grits and black-eyed peas, collards cooked in streaked meat, I'll help myself to these. Lather breeches, beans, and sow belly, biscuits thick and brown, good pork sausage and white gravy, beat the fiddles in town. Lather breeches, beans, and sow belly, corn pone hot from the pan, country butter and fresh charred milk, fill the hungry man.
Anybody hungry? Go for it.
I wish we could sing that part with the white gravy, but we toned it down just a hair.
The first time we heard these, we were like, oh God, what did we get
We were a
ourselves
little intimidated. We were a little intimidated.
Leather breeches, beans, and sow belly, grits and black-eyed peas, collards cooked in streaked meat, I'll help myself to these. Leather breeches, beans, and sow belly, bits and flamin' round, good pork sausage and white gravy, the best fiddles in town. Leather breeches, beans, and sow belly, corn pone hot from the pan, country butter and fresh turned milk, fill the hungry man.
That's a little fast.
It can be a tongue
I couldn't keep
twister.
up.
It can be a tongue twister.
Y'all got music now. I expect a little foot stomping on this one.
All right. Y'all want to sing it with us?
Yes, we could
We'll
use
play a
all the
little
help we
slow.
can get on this one.
That first line's kind of.
You can slow it down a little bit.
That was my fault.
Well, with in our, I think a lot of these songs from the old days kind of did become bluegrass songs and square dance songs and stuff like that. So, and fiddle tunes. So we tend to want to speed things up a little bit so people can dance a little bit. Take it to the square dance.
It's hard to say.
Makes it hard to sit down. Yeah.
And sing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's better.
2, 3.
Leather breeches, beans, and South Valley, grits and black-eyed peas. Collars cooked and streaking me, I'll help myself to thee. Leather breeches, beans, and South Valley, biscuits sticking around. Good pork sausage and white gravy, the best fiddles in town. Leather breeches, beans, and South Valley, corn pone hot from the pan. Country butter and fresh turned milk, fill the hungry man.
Alright, just you guys.
Beans and South Valley, grits and black-eyed peas. Collars cooked and streaking me, I'll help myself to these. Leather breeches, beans and South Valley, biscuits sticking around. Good pork sausage and white gravy, the best fiddles in town. Leather breeches, beans and South Valley, corn hot from the pan. Country butter and fresh churned milk, fill the
Alright,
hungry
everybody, here we
man.
go.
Leather breeches, beans, and South Valley, grits and black-eyed peas. Collars cooked and chicken meat, I'll help myself to these. Leather breeches, beans, and South Valley, biscuits sticking round. Good pork sausage and white gravy, the best fiddles in town. Leather breeches, beans, and South Valley, corn pone hot from the pan. Country butter and fresh turned milk, fill the hungry man.
I know. He said, I'm starving.
Yeah.
Was Al, I wasn't watching too closely, was he reading from these when these recordings were made?
Al and Don and Adelaide sat down and put music to what Al had heard.
So,
Now, I think Al probably did it from his own memory.
so are these transcriptions of what he played and sang? These were made from his singing?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is Al an opera singer?
No, he is not. He was a trained pianist.
Fool me.
He was a concert trained pianist.
Uh-huh.
And he helped start the Flat Rock Playhouse. He took part in the very first play there. And quite a mountaineer. If I had time, I'll tell you about Shut-In, which was the Trail of Tears mountain community that the Cherokee community that they stumbled upon. That evaded the Trail of Tears and their ancestors. It was a little community called Shut-In. They found all sorts of things in their hiking. He would take his jacket, a Hershey bar, some peanuts, and some Dinty Moore stew. And the jacket he'd use as a tent, and usually he'd end up sitting on the porch of one of the hermit's cabins, or find a tree or something, or a cave. The cave at Devil's Courthouse, he found a hermit living there named Lonnie. It's like many, many stories. Okay, one more brief little song called, let's see, where is our sorghums? All day singing, don't you read after me? Don't have sorghums. Y'all sing sorghums. You do sorghums. It's another little ditty. If you're not careful, you'll wake up singing the.
Oh, they get in your
I
head.
didn't
It's in your
sleep last
head.
night, and every time it's a different song in my head.
They stick right in your head, y'all. I'm just telling you now. We call that, in the country, we call that an earworm.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Some like 'em white, some like 'em brown, some like 'em thin as a possum hound. Give my sorghum stick and sweet, that's the way they fit to eat. Stretch out the mule, hitch to the mill, grind my sugar cane if you will. Make my sorghum stick and sweet, that's the way they fit to eat. Punch up the fire, heat up the pan, skim that barley juice if you can. Cook my sorghum stick and sweet, that's the way they fit to eat. Some like 'em light, some like 'em brown, some like 'em thin as a possum hound. Give my sorghum stick and sweet, that's the way they fit to eat.
What do you think? Yeah, real deep, rich molasses, real slow moving. Mm-hmm.
But you fry them?
Put it on biscuits with butter.
Put in biscuits and butter, yeah. It's mighty good stuff.
The one that got me was skim that barley juice. We looked it up, didn't we look that up?
We did.
That stuff, the stuff on top.
Yeah, it's the juice that comes to the top of the boil. It's kind of like the grease on the top of it all. You just skim it off.
So let's just teach them one verse, the first verse of that. Everybody got sorghums?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Some like 'em light, some like 'em brown, some like 'em thin as a possum hound. Give my sorghums thick and sweet, that's the way they're fit to eat. Some like 'em light, some like 'em brown, some like 'em thin as a possum hound. Give my sorghums thick and sweet, that's the way they're fit to eat.
Let's do it again, y'all. Come on, louder.
1, 2. Some like 'em light, some like 'em brown, some like 'em thin as a possum hound. Give my sorghums thick and sweet, that's the way they're fit to eat.
Yeah. Good job, y'all.
Okay, now y'all get a little break. Well, it'll be a new story. Everybody ready for a story? Sure. Okay. Figure some of you were up late last night. Yeah, some of you were up late last night.
We're up late.
So try
Back
not
in
to
the
fall
basement.
asleep when I read your story, but it's okay. So this is from The Last of the Rugged Individualists. And this is not about a hermit, this is about a rugged individualist. And he was a precursor to NASCAR driving. Have y'all heard about moonshiners?
Possible. Can you do this standing up?
I can.
For those people that have some hearing loss.
I will try to speak loudly too. So moonshiners were a precursor to Thunder Road and the NASCAR drivers. And of course my father met all sorts of rugged individualists, and this was one of his most fun times he told me that he had. This is called Outwitting the Revenuers. And just in case you're interested, revenuers is spelled Revenooers. Revenuers, okay? Dad liked some corn squeezins. His different hermits that he met, he would angle to get himself some corn squeezins, moonshine. And every bit was a little different depending on the kind of corn that they used. But this is about Willie McLean. Running moonshine, corn liquor out in the mountains, was once a big time and risky business. The business had several players who were dependent upon one another for their survival. They were, of course, the men who grew the corn and made the squeezins, and the drinking customers who lived in the small villages and larger towns of the lowlands, where imbibing this golden liquid was a great pleasure, but also illegal and a sin to boot. And there were the whiskey priests who shouted God's disapproval and the threat of hellfire and damnation upon those whose lips and throats parted to receive this contraband liquid. Their message was crucial to the passing and maintenance of laws prohibiting the legal sale of alcohol and liquor by the drink in ABC stores and restaurants. This, of course, increased the sale of moonshine liquor and the support of the mountaineers who made it and ran it down the mountains. And then there were the revenuers, whose job it was to locate and destroy the stills, obstruct the transportation of the contraband, and interrupt its sale to thirsty customers. You see whose side my father was on. Of course, without the stills, the runners, and the customers, the revenuers would be without gainful employment. So it was inevitable that from time to time some bargains were made amongst the players of the Mountain Dew game in order to assure its continuance and their jobs. The revenuers obviously could not just openly condone or make deals with the still owners and their drivers. So some arrests were made from time to time. And the drivers developed a number of driving skills and knowledge of hidden mountain roads that the average revenuer did not have. Yet there were some dangerous competitions engendered between these two players as they tried to catch or evade each other. This resulted in what came to be named the Thunder Road, and was the training ground for future NASCAR race drivers who developed some driving skills and daring as either bootleggers or revenuers. I knew some of both, as well as some of the recipients of their trades, but only one of the drivers is a close and personal friend. That was Willie McLean, who lived in the backwoods near Shining Rock. Anybody know where Shining Rock is? No? North Carolina. His daddy, Shelby McLean, had started a corn liquor still back in the early 1900s, using the corn that he grew on his own land. At first, he made just enough to meet the needs of the local natives and that of a few relatives who had gone off the mountain to live in the lowlands. He had an old Chevy pickup truck that he used to carry a few gallons down the road. The still was set up in a well-hidden area among the laurel and rhododendron thickets, and the product was pulled by a mule wagon to the road and then loaded on the truck. It was just a narrow dirt road for about 5 miles and then merged into a 2-lane dirt-packed road and another 5 miles to the state highway. As Willie grew into a young man, it was a natural thing for him to do, to learn the business and help his daddy out with the making and the running part of what was their way of life. Just wanted to be just like his daddy. I first met Willie McLean when a friend of mine and I were doing hiking along the trail leading up towards Shining Rock. We'd stashed a 6-pack of beer and some cold meat and cheese in the cold mountain stream to slake our hunger and thirst after we climbed up and came back down the narrow trail. When we got back down to the stream, there were 2 young mountain fellows sitting on the edge of the stream where we'd stashed our provisions. They were having a drink of some sort from a couple of tin cups. We approached them slowly and cautiously. They looked up at us and we said our howdies to one another. The young man and my hiking buddy, who was a native of the general area, this is Al Moore, seemed to recognize each other a bit, so we sat down beside him and pulled our provisions out of the stream. My friend popped open one of the beers and held it out to the young men, said, "Y'all care to join us for a little drink?" The tallest of the pair, who turned out to be Willie McLean, said, "I reckon we uns don't mind if we do." So we opened the other 3 cans and all of us took good long swigs of the cold beer. Then we shared the meat and cheese together and talked about how each of us was doing. Then Willie reached off to the side and brung up a pint-sized bottle of corn liquor and passed it around. It was some of the best stuff I'd ever tasted, and I told Willie how great it was and asked him where he'd gotten such a tasty drink. "I made it my own self," he replied. "I sure would like to have some to take down to town with me," I told him. He looked at his buddy, at my hiking friend, and then he took a good hard look at me like he was sizing me up. And then he said, "If you uns want to come back up here to my place with me, I'll get yuns a couple jars of it." That was my first visit to the McLean homestead and the beginning of a long friendship. I learned from Willie the art of making Mountain Dew and the business of running it down the mountain, the frequency of which he did it, and the stops to make deliveries or refuel the gas in his truck. By this time, Willie had taken over Daddy's responsibilities and enlarged his traffic. He had prospered enough to buy a cab-over logging trailer he used to haul big loads of the makings. I met Willie often at a roadside cafe near where I was staying with my hiking friend, where Willie stopped to get quick breakfast. On many of these occasions, a couple of revenue officers were also having breakfast, and they seemed to know Willie. Matter of fact, they seemed to know each other pretty well. As a matter of fact, one of the officers turned to Willie and said in a kidding manner, "When are you bringing out your next load, Willie?" Willie said, "Well, if it ain't raining too goddamn hard, I just might do it next Sunday morning about daybreak." Everybody in the cafe, including the revenuers, erupted into loud guffaws. One of the revenuers then said, "Thanks for the information, Willie. That's the day we'll be here to catch you at it." When the revenuers left the cafe, I asked Willie, "Are you really going to bring out a load next Sunday morning?" He grinned and he said, "Well, I might just do it." The next Saturday morning was a beautiful, clear day in the mountains, so I hightailed it over to the roadside cafe at 6 a.m., took my usual booth. A few minutes later, the 2 revenue officers came, ordered their breakfast of ham and eggs and coffee, and 4 other customers asked for strawberry pops and moon pies. The cafe had not been open long when a big logging truck pulled into the parking lot and Willie McLean stepped down the running board and joined me in my booth, ordered red-eyed gravy ham, 3 fried eggs, a plate of biscuits, and a cup of coffee. One of the revenuers came over to our booth and said to Willie, "You told us you were bringing a load of liquor this morning. From the looks of it, you got scared, and they only bringing out a load of logs." Willie grinned slyly and winked at me and replied, "I reckon you'll just have to arrest me and put me in the county jail for telling a lie. This morning logs are more important than the liquor." The revenuer said, "Well, we just might have to take a look at your load anyway." We all got up and went out in the parking lot where Willie parked the truck. Officers poked around the logs with their police sticks, rummaged around the cab, and looked under the truck to see if containers were rotting underneath. scratched their noggins a bit, turned to Willie and told him, "Guess you ain't hauling nothing this morning but a load of logs, chicken. But sure as shooting, we'll get you one of these days when your load is more liquid than it is solid." With that, they got in their patrol vehicle and went off down the highway. Willie and I went back to the cafe to finish our breakfast. I said, "Willie, you scoundrel, you told me you were going to bring a load of corn liquor this morning and dared tell the revenuers you were going to do it. I guess you just chickened out." Willie wiped the breakfast leavings from his chin and his mouth and said, "You uns want to lean up against 40 gallons of moonshine?" "Sure," I replied. "Well, come on back out to the truck," he laughed. So we went back to the truck loaded with the big logs. "Well, where's the liquor?" I asked. Willie said, "Lean up again them there logs sticking out of the back of the truck." So I leaned up against them. "Well," I said, "where's the damn liquor?" "I still don't see nothing but logs." Willie said, "You again hit, you silly boy. The liquor is inside the logs." Then he explained he'd carefully hauled out several big logs, shoved 10-gallon milk cans full of liquor back inside each log, then shoved a smaller piece of the same type of log against cans to fit snugly into the end of the larger log so it looked like it was just one big log. "They ride easy down the mountain," Willie said, "and don't do no sloshing around, and them damn revenuers are too dumb to catch on. Not only that, but I can carry a few extra gallons in the inner chubs of the tires if you uns just put in the right amount of liquor in them and don't take too many sharp curves going down the mountain." Well, that's the way my friend Willie McLean outwitted the revenuers. As long as I knew him, he never got caught, and he ran a very profitable business until several cities and counties decided tax money they could get from opening ABC stores and serving liquor by the drink in restaurants exceeded the concerns of the whiskey priests, another who feared the fires of hell and damnation if they swallowed the golden liquid that flowed from the mountains of Willie McLean's logging truck. And I have never found any legal booze that was a good substitute for his wonderful squeezins. And now you're going, thank you. Now you're going to have Moonshine Blues. This is a new one. This probably hasn't been played. Al didn't record this when I found this in the Pennsylvania library, so it hadn't seen the light of day since 1939 or 40.
So we turned it into a blues song. Sorta, kinda.
I ain't got no liquor, I ain't got no corn, got no silver to buy none, and I wish I'd never been born. Shame, it's a shame. Woke up feeling thirsty, woke up feeling mean, dreamt I had some good whiskey, it was only a dream. Shame, it's a shame. My skill was a-going, revenue was gone. Now I ain't got no whiskey when you look at what they've done. Shame, it's a shame.
Oh, think about it.
Going round old Hogback, heard there was a still. Gonna get me some whiskey, even if someone's to kill. Shame, it's a shame. Shame, it's a shame.
Yeah, that was fun.
I have to admit, that one scared me because
Yeah.
we were on the road last week and we practiced through it a couple times and that was it.
Y'all did a good job with that.
Thank you.
Was that one next? That's the one that makes me nervous.
Gotta get this going.
Okay.
So this next one, let's see. Yeah, I don't have the singing one. This will be y'all's next. So, is the next one Yonder's World? Yeah.
Yes.
Breathe just a minute. So y'all know what a sin ballad is. Everybody heard of a sin ballad? Well, they used to sing a lot of music about the stuff they'd done wrong. There's one called Cheatin'. Wife's talking about her husband cheating, or I've gone to jail. There's one guy, man went to jail for killing his wife because he drank too much corn liquor. He based it on the corn liquor. So they're called sin ballads, A-R-D-S, sin ballads. And so this one, I think y'all, have you breathed enough? Can you play Yonder's World?
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I
This
thought
one.
we were getting ready to do the other one.
Which one?
No, this is the one. This one's great.
Okay, which one? You can play whatever you want.
The wife from which?
It's the wife's lament that makes me nervous.
But yeah, we're gonna do that. That'll be coming up pretty soon.
Okay. This one actually, we liked it so much that we've actually put it into our set list, and we play this out in the public.
1, 2, 3, 2, 2. Young ones gather round beside me, hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell. My heart is sad, my soul is burdened. Hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell. It was a cold and snowy morning, and I was going down the hill. I met poor Jim with a gallon of liquor he had stolen from my still. I pulled my gun, I leveled it on him, and nary a word I let him say. I shot him dead, he never struggled. The snow was red with blood that day. I can't forget his woman and youngins, the night he laid on top so cold. I leave him well and mourn for sorrow they never knew poor Jim had stolen. We laid his coffin soft and pretty and dug his grave up on the hill, and through the snow we towed him to him and buried poor Jim for robbing the still. Tell his widow and his parents that I am dying, and I must tell how on that cold and snowy morning I shot poor Jim they loved so well. My heart is sad, my soul is burdened. Hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell. My heart is sad, my soul is burdened. Hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell.
All right.
Right.
For contrast, I do have Al singing. I think you're going to be interested in hearing the contrast.
Yes.
So good.
Totally.
Nobody never know. Man.
Hold on. Technology is so good and so crummy. Oh, let's see.
What's the name of the song?
Yonder's World.
Till he was laying on his deathbed of
Can y'all hear that?
I mind I seen this man whose name I won't mention many times, but I never knowed him well. We howled but never shouted.
We howdied but never shouted.
Now young uns gather round my bedside and hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell. My heart is sad, my soul is burdened. Oh, hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell. 'Twas on a cold and snowy morning while I was going down the hill. met poor Jim with a gallon of liquor that he had stolen from my still. I pull my gun, I level it on him, and nary a word I let him say. I shot him dead, he never struggled. The snow was red with blood that day. I can't forget his woman and young'uns, the night he lay a corpse so cold. How they did wail and moan for sorrow. They never know poor Jim had sold. He made his coffin soft and gray, and dug his grave upon the hill, and through the snow he took him to it, and buried poor Jim for robbing the still. Oh, tell his widow and his orphans that I am dying and must tell how on that cold and snowy morning I shot poor Jim they loved so well. My heart is sad, my soul is burdened. Oh, hear the story I must tell before I go on that long journey to yonder's world where I must dwell.
So you see what they've done with the song. It's really interesting to have the contrast. Any questions so far about what we're doing? Or okay. So this is the one that you've been worried about, the Wife's Lament. This is a very sad song.
Yes.
But don't worry, there'll be a story afterwards that's a little happier. But this is, I mean, I think you've got that, the words to that somewhere, if those of you that have the song book. They're sad words, sad song. But women wrote music too, of course.
Yeah, this song is, like, I really tried, in learning the song, I tried to kind of get in character, and it made me so sad that I couldn't get through it without crying. And I might not do it today either, so, but I have been able to get through it without crying a couple of times, but the first few times I was like, oh my, it's so sad because, anyway, I'll tell you later. I'll try to just sing it now. We'll see what happens. Of satin, I ain't got a fine dress of silk, and there ain't any chickens around my door. I ain't got no cow for to milk. The others have all gone to singing, but I'm staying home all forlorn, for my husband has gone with a prettier girl, and I wished I'd never been born. My heart is aching and a breaking. My life, it's so hard to bear, for I ain't got no silks, no pretty satin. I ain't got no shoes for to wear. fatback or bread. And my husband's gone off with a prettier girl. Oh Lordy, I wish I was dead. It's so sad if it's
Is there any crying? Are there any tears? Okay.
They're welling. They're welling. It made me so sad because, you know, I've been sad before in my life a lot of times, but to think that a woman could be so lamenting and so sad that she could want to be dead and she has children, it just like, it made me so sad. I couldn't take it.
So if everybody's sufficiently sad, I think this contrasting story is going to cheer you up.
Yes. It's
This
my
is
favorite story.
This is
too.
my favorite story. I grew up bedtime. I didn't get like Goldilocks and the Three Bears growing up. I got these stories about the mountain women and men. And this was one of my father's closest friends that he made in the mountains, a woman named Hester Sue. And Hester Sue, if she'd heard this song, she would have told that woman to get off her butt and do something.
Yes.
Hester. Hester McCall was left all alone at 9 years of age when her mama and daddy were both killed by a bolt of lightning that struck their cabin on Little Terrapin Mountain. She walked 3 miles to her nearest neighbors, who took her back home, buried her parents, put a padlock on the outside doors, and took Hester to live with her grandparents over on Face Off Mountain. When she was 12, her granddaddy took and run off because he'd come back from hunting deer and bear to find Grandma in bed with Lonnie Buford. And right then and there, he suspicioned something. Then, when Hester was 17, she was left alone again when Grandma got the farcy and died. At first, Hester thought she might just go back to the cabin on Terrapin, but she had 2 dogs, a big ox, a pantry full of preserved food, and a smokehouse full of bear and deer meat. She was expert with a rifle and knew all about trapping animals for their fur. And she'd been the one to till the hilly farm and raise turnips, potatoes, and other vegetables. Also, there were 2 hogs and some chickens to provide her with meals. At 17, Hester had grown into a remarkably beautiful young mountain woman. With her fair skin, blonde hair, clear blue eyes, and graceful body, she could have been a fashion model in any city in the flatlands. After living by herself for a couple years, she developed a craving to have somebody to share her life. She thought at first maybe she'd just hike down the mountain under the waterfall near her place, go to the nearby town and find some young guy to marry her and bring him back to live with her on Face Off. But then she remembered how her granddaddy had run off and left them, so she guessed she really didn't want a man hanging around giving her orders and being in the way when she wanted to do things the way she wanted to do them. But she did want to have some children. She thought this out and came to her that she could get some man to give her a baby but not get married to him. She wanted that daddy of her baby to be a good-looking man with some sense in his head. And when she found one, she figured she could get him to do what he had to do to get her with a baby. So she walked 2.5 miles down the back trail to the state highway, got a ride with a farmer taking a load of cabbages into town. She scouted around a bit and saw a bunch of men going into Galway's Cafe across the street from the courthouse. So she went in behind them and sat on a counter stool next to the best-looking man that she saw. He shifted her around on a stool and asked her where she came from. "Up thar, on Face Off above Glassy Falls," she said, and gave him a big smile. "You in town with your husband, shopping for things?" he asked. "I ain't got one, and I don't want one," Hester replied. He asked politely if she would join him for some coffee and pancakes, to which Hester replied that she was party hungry and it would be a nice thing to do. After they ate and the crowd had thinned out, the man told Hester that he had a nice office on the next street, and maybe she'd like to come over there and get warm. Well, things after that went on pretty much the way Hester had planned, and she didn't have any trouble getting him to help her get her first baby girl, which she named Francine. The man who helped her was the highly respected judge of the circuit court in the area. When time came for the baby to be born, Hester got old Ms. Allison, a retired midwife who lived on Face Off, to come assist with the delivery. She never told the judge about the baby, and Ms. Allison never asked her about the daddy, since hill folks are known to be pretty closed-mouthed, and figure it ain't nobody's business what they do. Over the next several years, Hester had 4 more babies. The daddy of the second baby girl, Pauline, was the superintendent of public schools. And the father of the third girl, Glennie Mae, was the town mayor. Mylene, the 4th baby's daddy, was the handsome young minister of the newest church in the county. All of these babies grew into beautiful and smart young women. In turn, they hiked down the trail to the highway and caught the school bus into town. When Francine graduated from high school, she received a scholarship to college and went on to complete training as a registered nurse. Pauline finished high school and became a secretary to a lawyer at the courthouse. Glennie Mae was the prettiest one of the 4 girls and became head cheerleader and fell in love with the quarterback and married him when they were both seniors. Mylene, the preacher's offspring, by the way, Dad knew the preacher, was 12 years old when I first met Hester McCall. The way it happened was that I'd gotten very bored in the second semester of my freshman year at my classes at Brevard Junior College. It was a cold, crisp morning in mid-March. The urge to be free of stultifying lectures and get out to the hills was overpowering. I just took off and headed out towards Glassy Falls, 2 miles from the college. Anybody here seen Glassy Falls? Oh, they're spectacular. The falls are spectacular. You can walk underneath them and take a deer trail up the side of the mountain if you're agile enough. Just as I got under the falls, a young girl about 12 came scampering down the trail above, and we met face to face. With the startled look of a fawn, she slipped by me and ran down the trail below. The cascades above the falls narrowed and gave way to open land on the right side of the stream. Walking across the territory, I soon came to several acres of plowed roughs and figured it to be the property of some mountain farmer. I'd only gone 50 yards when I spotted a heavy old pink quilt in the plowed roughs. I poked my walking stick into the quilt to open it up. To my everlasting surprise, I saw what looked like to be a newborn baby. My first thought was that the girl I'd seen under the falls with the baby mother, who had abandoned her, but she looked too young for that to be true. I was in a semi-state of shock, trying to figure out what to do. Male college freshmen are not equipped with the disposition of mental acuity to solve even much simpler problems. So I heard soon loud barking and growls and looked up to see 2 large mongrel dogs bearing down on me from the hill above. I could see my early epitaph, college freshman eaten by wild mountain dogs. Then a loud, stern command stopped the dogs in their tracks, and a tall woman appeared behind them. "What are yons doing up here?" she yelled. "You's one of their college boys, ain't ye? Well, if you are looking for Mylene, it won't do you no good. She ain't ready yet. And when she's ready, she'll be looking for a man, not a boy." No, ma'am, I stuttered. "Just taking a break from classes. Found this baby here by accident and don't know what to do about it." "You'ns don't gotta do nothing about that hit baby. That is my baby, and I take care of hit," the woman said clearly. "But won't it get cold out here? It's winter and it's really cold," I squeaked. "Hell no," she replied. "Gin next August here, least will be a year old, and there ain't had nothing to snuffle nor a sniffle all winter. But you'uns look skinny enough to freeze yourself, so you'uns better come on up to the cabin and let me put some hot victuals in your body." She picked up the baby and headed to her cabin with the 2 dogs, and I followed close behind her. Once inside, she put the baby down in front of the fireplace, and the dogs lay down with the baby between them. She told me her name was Hester McCall, and she didn't care what mine was. Then she went over to an old oak barrel and stuck her arm up to her elbow and pulled out a hunk of salt pork, scraped it off with her fingernails, and tossed it into the hot coals. I asked the baby's name, and I was told it was Gilberta. I asked if she had any more children. She said she had 4 other girls, and gave me their names and what they was a-doing. While Hester was getting a meal together, I looked around the cabin, which was furnished with sturdy homemade furniture. I was surprised to see pictures of several men pinned to the cabin wall that had been clipped from the town's weekly newspaper sometime earlier. Names of the men and their positions in town are described along with each picture. I recognized most of them. A couple had spoken to our convocations at our college. I'd played tennis with the young minister. Innocently, I asked Hester why these pictures were pinned on the wall. "Well," she said, "if you'uns had the brain of a stinking varmint, you'd know what they're doing up there." Oh. That was quite an experience for a college freshman from the flatlands of Piedmont, North Carolina. I think we got just time for about one more song.
Okay.
And then we'll teach it to our friends here.
You just want to play a few verses because there's like.
Well, let's go. We got time. We got about 10 minutes.
Well, that there was my favorite story.
That there's my favorite.
Did you hear about this poor weak woman, and then they get to this empowered woman, and it just makes me happy.
Who is that? Don't you grieve after me. Who is that coming? Don't you grieve after me. Who is that coming? Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me. Looks like Moses coming. Don't you grieve after me. Looks like Moses coming. Don't you grieve after me. It looks like Moses coming. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me. Looks like David coming. Don't you grieve after me. Looks like David coming. Don't you grieve after me. Looks like David coming. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me.
Looks like Gabriel.
Looks like Gabriel coming. Don't you grieve after me. Looks like Gabriel coming. Don't you grieve after me. Looks like Gabriel coming. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me.
He has a shining trumpet.
Has a shining trumpet. Don't you grieve after me. Has a shining trumpet. Don't you grieve after me. He has a shining trumpet. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me.
We see our Father's coming.
See our Father's coming. Don't you grieve after me. See our Father's coming. Don't you grieve after me. See our Father's coming. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me.
We see our Mother's coming.
See our Mother's coming. Don't you grieve after me. See our Mother's coming. Don't you grieve after me. See our Mother's coming. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me.
We'll meet our loved ones coming.
Last one.
Meet our loved ones coming. Don't you grieve after me. Meet our loved ones coming. Don't you grieve after me. Meet our loved ones coming. Don't you grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me. Lord, I don't want you to grieve after me.
Oh, I thought it was the next one. Oh,
whatever it might be.
Oh, we hate music.
So any questions about this so
One of our
far, about how
favorite
this came
songs.
about, or what the
Let's
songs
see.
are, or anything like that?
It's one of our favorite songs.
Okay, we're gonna get them to play one of their favorite songs, which we don't. They're trying to decide which is one of their favorite songs that you
Yes,
play.
we're trying to decide.
That we play.
That you play.
That we
One of your
play.
songs.
Okay, well.
Kind of updated.
He doesn't like any of
Yeah, so, yeah.
He hates all of
He
us.
goes sit down.
it.
No. What you want?
Pick one. What you usually play.
We could kind of stick to this theme, and we could play one of Kelly's hateful songs.
There we go.
All right, play a hateful song.
We do a lot of
There
different
we go.
styles of music, but this is one that kind of fits what's going on here. And
The
this
pressure
is
is not on now.
a murder ballad that Kelly wrote.
All right.
Most things she writes are mean and hateful, and just lighthearted.
It's not really true, y'all. I write some nice songs too, but I do take on the role, I guess, of the murder ballad writer in our group. So this is one I wrote, and it's the all-encompassing Appalachian Americana song.
But where did I go wrong? 1, 2,
gone, gone, you were gone. Whoa, love, whoa, love, tell me where did I go wrong?
Well, I comb these hills and valleys, every tap house in town. Now I know, yes I know.
I found out from my brother you took up with another. Done me wrong, wrong, done me wrong. Oh, love, love, tell me where did I go wrong?
Need a fiddle player.
Whoa, love, tell me where did I go wrong?
I've done 8 hard years in prison, only you and I know the reason. I took the blame and you took it all. I'm gonna hunt you with my blade, gonna show you
To your grave, make you gone, truly gone, forever gone. Whoa, love, love, tell me where did I go wrong? Whoa, love, love, tell me where did I go wrong? Whoa, love, love, tell me where did I go wrong?
All right. All right. Well, thank you for being such a good audience and sharing these songs. And thanks to Kelly and letters to Abigail and my long lost son Dakota. We appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
So y'all look great. Yes.
Thank you so much.